Hello, everyone. I'm Colin, Tessier of WrestleZone.com, joined by Robert DeFelice to talk about Friday Night SmackDown. Robert, how you doing?
It's SummerSlam Saturday, Colin. I'm doing pretty damn great. The wrestling world is abuzz, and it's the biggest party of the summer. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. SummerSlam is tonight. We're recording this on Saturday. So, of course, we will talk about the pay-per-view, the SmackDown side of things, the general pay-per-view, and, of course, what the show we did see last night for SmackDown. Before we do, just want to remind you all, this show, like everything we do here at WrestleZone, is available on any number of streaming platforms, whether it's SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So, Robert, might as well start with the big story for WWE here. With the show closing angle with Roman Reigns, John Cena having a final exchange ahead of SummerSlam. And WWE gave away the result of the main event of SummerSlam, a generational clash of two of the very top guys, the one match at SummerSlam that people actually really want to see, and they just gave it away, Robert. Tell me all about it.
So, essentially, the Roman Reigns and John Cena were having a verbal sparring match again, and Cena really hit on the all I need is 1, 2, 3. To his credit, you might say, oh, that's cheesy and stupid. No, people were into it. And for me, like, if the people are into it, that's all that matters. I just don't like that Roman Reigns says, oh, well, you're in Hollywood. And John Cena says, yeah, I know everybody thinks I'm going to lose because I'm making a movie. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm winning the title. And you'll see the WrestleMania. You'll see the belt at WrestleMania because I'm leaving. And first off, I'm like, I like the confidence in that, but I don't like that John Cena's just like, kiss my ass, I'm leaving with your belt.
Yeah.
And then Roman goes, oh, I can go to Hollywood too, John. In fact, if you beat me, I'll leave WWE. Okay. It's all right. You took the one match that people wanted to see. Roman Reigns, John Cena. That's it. That's what people want to see. And what did you give us? You gave us convoluted booking, Finn Balor, Cena signs a contract in blue Sharpie, which he did acknowledge. How is it even legal? Funny enough, but it's a hat on a hat, man. It's John Cena, Roman Reigns. It doesn't need to be goofy. It doesn't need any of that. And also, I kind of think this might be a swerve that you go, oh, well, this must mean that Roman's winning. And then they swerve you just to swerve you because that's what they do. That's what they do now. Like, it's just made me kind of like, if Roman wins, it's, of course, Roman wins.
Yeah.
Because he said he would leave WWE if he didn't. If Cena wins, it goes from, okay, Roman can beat his ass at Madison Square Garden to now they have to find some convoluted way to not have Roman leave the company.
Yeah.
Like, it's dumb. It's
very dumb.
It's dumb. And let me just say something. You do the stupid, John Cena rolled him up. 1, 2, and by the way, Roman kicked out at 2, so he couldn't even get a 3
maybe
count.
2.5, and
So
that was not a 3 count. You know,
and what is this? Like, it's John Cena, the man who has 16 world championships, going for a 17th. And you're just like, I know what we'll do. We'll make it sound like he can barely hang, and that all he needs to do is get a 1, 2, 3. This is the guy who's like literally is 5 moves of doom, is, was the face of the company for 10 years. How did we botch this? How did we botch the only match that people wanted to see going into SummerSlam?
I don't know, Robert. I mean, for months, this has been the pretty clear, at least reported direction. Then it became somewhat official at Money in the Bank. Cena returns, and you think, wow, this is great. There's no way they can screw it up. And they did. They
multiple times over.
Yeah, and they brought me back last week. I thought the promo exchange was really fun. Granted, it wasn't for everybody. Some people thought it was too, maybe too gratuitous with Cena referencing CM Punk and Dean Ambrose. But I liked it. That's what I'm here for. And then last night they gave it away. That there was, or I should say, hey, as you said, there is a chance that somehow they could just pull a swerve and try and figure out how to walk it back, and I don't know. Who even knows? It may Neshker is saying Roman could be taking time off, and maybe he actually will lose, and he'll go away for a little while. And she's also predicting that Cena could win. I mean, to me, Robert, the fact is that last week I thought, okay, we could see Cena win. There's a chance, and then as you said, maybe then he drops the title back at the Madison Square Garden show. Like there was a clear possible sequence of events there. And now, I don't see Roman lead. Like that just feels very off to me. I don't think he's going to lose because I have no idea how you could possibly walk that back and have him come back. Because he agreed. It could. I guess if we're going to play it out, he could say, "Oh, I never signed a contract." Because clearly we're emphasizing the importance of contracts here. That's how Cena got his title shot in the first place. I don't know, but
there was a verbal agreement and a handshake, though. I mean,
that's not binding.
That would hold up in a court of law, I think, but maybe not in the court of WWE.
Exactly. The Cena signature supposedly will hold up in the court of WWE, but they could very easily flip it around and say, "Oh, he didn't actually sign this contract to have this agreement for SummerSlam." I don't know. It just feels like they made it overly convoluted. And as we talked about it last week, Sasha Banks back Blair for WrestleMania, that is billed, it wrote itself, 2 top stars, deliver this match everyone wants to see. And instead they've just added so many unnecessary, not even layers to it, but complications and just overly, overly complicated. And now it's like they've definitely taken some of the buzz off the story. The roll up was stupid, as you said. Cena kicked out 2.5, so they didn't even get the idea right that he could pin Reigns for the 3 count, and that's how the show ended.
By the way, the lead into that was Roman tried to hit Cena with an attitude adjustment.
Yeah, for no reason, just what
giggles, I guess. If you were really gonna do a whole 1, 2, 3, it should have been John hits Roman with the attitude adjustment, pins him, crowd chants 1, 2, 3, and we're out of there. So at least John doesn't look like he just tried to schoolboy Roman Reigns as though he doesn't know how to win a championship that he's won 16 times around. It's very strange.
It's very strange. But
that being said, though, I'll say this: I am looking forward to the match.
I am too. It'll be fun. It'll be good, but it won't be what it could have been. I'll say that. I think it could have been so much more, because sometimes we talk about it on the show all the time where the build ultimately won't really matter because the match will still deliver. But this is a case where the match could be even better if the build had helped it out. And then here, the match will kind of have to overcome this build that we've seen. So Hermit Carr wondering if we talked about Cena maybe winning and dropping the title and Madison Square Garden. He's saying, how about Cena wins and how he could lose the next pay-per-view, or on the flip side, Cena losing, and that could set up somebody like Randy Orton winning the title, or at some point breaking the record, because he's been, I guess, the most loyal to WWE all along.
Randy's got another what is he, 14 or 15?
Yeah, I think it's 14.
So he's got another 3 to go. I mean, back in the days of hot potato championship wins, I would say, yeah, it's very possible. But his last one was a hot potato, and he hasn't sniffed the title since. So I don't know if we can even think that. Randy could. John deserves it.
Yes.
John, and to be fair, I know people want to go, well, Flair's had the title 21 times, actually. And it's okay. But in truth, John's held the WWE Championship and the WWE, all WWE titles more than anybody. Because John deserves it. Because he's the most loyal WWE guy ever.
Yeah. And I guess in that same vein, Randy Orton, he'll be just fine. He's probably going to win the tag titles tonight over at Riddle. And that's been a great storyline over there on Raw. So, just because you're not in the world title scene, as you said, Robert, he hasn't really been in that picture since he lost the title last time, or by and large, I should say. No, he's still very much doing good things as a featured player over on Raw. So it's a win-win situation. So for me, It'll be a fun match. I'm looking forward to it. It will still be special seeing Reigns face Cena. It is definitely going to be bittersweet in that sense. I think it could have been a lot better. But speaking of veterans and real faces of the company, guys who have been loyal through and through, Edge was on the show last night to build up his match with Rollins at SummerSlam one last time, saying that he has to go to this dark place, that Rollins has pushed him there. He doesn't like going there because it's hard to come back from. And they're really building up the sense that if Rollins does hit the curb stomp, that'll actually end Edge's career because of his neck injuries. And so we got that very Edge style promo. Later in the night, Seth Rollins comes out and says there's no shame in being broken down by this business and not being the man that you once were and not having that darkness. And speaking of darkness, Edge gave Seth Rollins a brood bath.
Can we just say bloodbath? Please.
Well, I'm only going off with what they phrased it as.
I know, but like, my lord, a brood bath. And by the way, it doesn't even necessarily look like blood. If it was blood, it was very blood that's been setting out for a while. This blood was dark and concerning, and maybe a little chocolate puddingy.
Yeah,
I don't know, like
it was goo. It was like black goo.
Black goo.
Lots of goo.
That's what we're, we don't, it's like Mortal Kombat. We don't bleed. We just, black goo is what comes out. I think that's worse, but who knows?
Yeah, it was a weird visual. Rollins being there covered in this, Herman Carson looks like oil. I guess I could say, hey, it's not the Attitude Era anymore. They can't, have liquid that looks like blood because it's a PG program.
I mean, it's been. I think you could have blood though. I don't know. Like, if you're gonna do it, you should be able to go all the way. And also, Edge doing the brood stick, great, because he did mention, I've been in Ministry of Darkness. Was that leading up to this one, or was that leading up to WrestleMania, where he had said?
No, I thought that was this one.
Yeah, where he was like, I've been in Ministry of Darkness and the brood. He should have done this before,
right?
Because the last thing to build this match being Edge goes brood, is he gonna come up from fire tonight? Like, what's
that'd be cool.
What are we doing? It's just a weird final visual. But again, I've said this is the match that I'm most looking forward to. It should be a lot of fun. You can't screw this one up for me. And if they do that, then we got some problems, but it should be a lot of fun. I've enjoyed every bump in this road, even though to some it hasn't been as good as it should have been. I'm still high on the idea that Edge is wrestling, and I don't want to take that for granted. Like last night alone, we saw Edge, Christian on one program defending a world championship, and a return of a guy called CM Punk. I don't want to lose sight of it just because it's like, oh well, that wasn't as good as I want it to be. This one I'll let slide because it's Edge can still go.
Yeah, and this one, maybe even in a different way than Reigns and Cena, it's gonna be a great match because we've seen Edge at WrestleMania when he faced Roman at Money in the Bank. Edge can very much still go, and in this case, the build definitely has helped the match in the sense that it's been a good build, it's been compelling, they've had good promos and a good direction. They haven't screwed it up. For me, I was more of a radar superstar Edge. Not the brood was a little before my time, but it's still fun seeing it go retro, like Furniture and Nando's saying here, having them go with the brood like that. It'd be cool if they kind of found some way to tie it into the match tonight, but I don't know. It was fun. It's throwbacks like that. It's can't really complain too much about it. I think it'll be a fun match. Like you said, we've talked about in recent weeks. Still not really sure who's going to win. I could see either guy. I think there's a case to be made either way. And then I guess at the end of the day, in a way, it doesn't even really matter because it's just going to be a good match and it's going to be a good time. But I feel like Edge has to get the win here. Like he hasn't gotten that win from the fans, and I think this is his moment because Rollins will be fine if he loses.
The fact that Edge hasn't gotten a win in front of fans is crazy. And I feel like that's one of the big issues indicative of WWE. Yeah, I know he got some wins on his journey, but they were all in the Thunderdome. And that's not cool. Actually, one was in the Performance Center. But that's not cool.
I mean, to be fair, like they've only had so many opportunities to give him that one in front of fans. I think he won like a SmackDown match in front of fans. You know, maybe it was the first SmackDown back. There was a tag team match in the studios. But in terms of a big pay-per-view match, this is only his, I guess, technically his third chance to get that win in front of the fans, because they had WrestleMania, they had Money in the Bank, and now it's SummerSlam. So, you know, I guess the cards have fallen this way, and so it would make sense to have the win in front of fans come here tonight at SummerSlam. What you do next, I don't know. He's already faced Roman, so I'm not quite sure what happens next in that sense. But you know, to give him a win in front of the fans for just to enjoy the moment, I don't really think there's anything really wrong with that. But we'll have to see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. That match we know will be happening on SummerSlam. One match that we don't really know because it's suddenly surrounded with a lot of uncertainty. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks for SmackDown Women's title. Yesterday afternoon, the reports broke that Sasha Banks was not in attendance at SmackDown, and the word going around was that this match, quote unquote, might be called off. So there's definitely a lot of doubt, a lot of question, you know, surrounding this match, and it's pretty unclear. But I should say, Bianca Belair was on the show last night. She referenced the match, and she said, "Oh, I hope Sasha's watching because, you know, I hope she sees what I'm going to do to Carmella and Zelina Vega." So they play it off like the match will be going down, but definitely, you know, a case where you wonder if where there's smoke, there's fire. But at the very least of the day, Belair did defeat both Carmella and Zelina Vega. So, based on what we saw last night, it seems like this match is going down. But, you know, usually, you know, when you have reports kind of break this news, like I said, there's seemingly cause for concern here, because they were both pulled from live events last weekend. They were supposedly both good to go, but Friday, the day before the show, Banks not there, and the match being called into question.
I keep hoping that it is something due to flights, or maybe, you know, just something else. But the idea being that if this is a COVID related thing, and I at that point you should say whatever the other thing is, because if it is just, oh, she missed her flight, oh, it's a personal family like explicitly state it's not COVID-19. I think we're at that point where you need to do that, because the Delta variant has already begun to put things in question, just as things are getting underway. And I hope she can go. But if she can't, here's what I'll say. If she can't and they know she can't, then they're fucked up for acting like Bianca's like, oh, Sasha, you better be watching. If you know Sasha can't go, you're wrong for promoting this match.
Absolutely. Like, you know, that's
so based on their own actions, I'm gonna say Sasha must be good to go, because otherwise they wouldn't have Bianca say the things she said, because that's just gross and false advertising and super negligent. Yeah. It's not fair to your audience, but I don't think WWE would do that. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't think so. I try to be hopeful in that sense that they wouldn't, you know, mislead the audience like that, at least with something so glaring like this. So I would have to hope that not happen tonight, but that, as I said, there is some cause for concern, room for doubt, and we're not really going to know until showtime, I guess, unless the last minute report breaks as an update. Of course,
they'll tell us on the bump. Oh, breaking news, Sasha Banks. So we told you on the bump. I hope they don't do that.
I hope so too. But regardless, of course, yes, we hope Sasha's okay, whatever might be going on. It's weird because usually, you know, we've seen them, if it is COVID or what, you know, a related issue, they've acknowledged it before, where when Drew tested positive, they did have them speak about it on Raw. But you know, there are many other times where people have been absent due to COVID or COVID protocols, and they haven't mentioned it. So there's really no way to know what's going on right now. And you know, there's definitely some there's some, at very least uncertainty. I've seen this idea floated around, and I'm curious what you think about it. Herman Dakar is saying he hopes to see Becky replacing Sasha if this is how this situation has unfolded. What could they do? Kind of a surprise like substitution here, with Becky supposedly being good to go. Now, granted, I think for me, I'll answer the question, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. For me, I would more think they would build up Becky's return and try to pop a rating rather than having a playoff like this.
Yeah, I keep seeing. I was directly asked, "Oh, it's a trick to get Becky back," and no, I don't think you do that. I don't think you have Sasha Bianca built like this and then just have Sasha disappear. Like, if they feel desperate enough where they have to pull the trigger on Becky, sure. Here's my pitch. Naomi, something happened to Sasha. And then it's Naomi comes out, beats the living hell out of Bianca, wins the title, is in the bloodline, worry about the Sasha stuff later, and just pivot. We're not even going to talk about it. Don't do some triple threat with Zelina and Carmella, especially after she single-handedly defeated both of them. They don't need it. Don't do some triple threat with Shotzi and Knox. Don't just run with Naomi if you got her, and let's go. Even though Naomi just did do a bunch of ID shots with the glow gear, so I guess maybe that would cause some issue, but run with it if you got it.
That's something that I want to see, or depending how things unfold from here on out. But looking back on the heart of the pandemic era, that's something I wish WWE did a little better. Is that when these situations arise, and the card is subject to change, but when a performer tests positive or otherwise fails COVID protocol in some way, whether it's exposure or whatever it might be, I want to see WWE kind of adapt a little better to kind of have these storylines be a little more dynamic, where it's like, okay, if this person can't go, and we saw it several times throughout the quote unquote pandemic era. Someone would get pulled from a show, like when Drew tested positive, there's some I wish they kind of adapt a little better, did something to kind of keep the show going without it being so kind of jarring, okay, they're there, then they're not, right? And that Robert, what you just pitched, kind of pivoting in a very active sense, okay, if Sasha can't go, let's do this instead, and not even say, oh, Sasha's not here, but just do something else instead. Granted, I think that there's some room to say, oh, that's they misled us, anyway. But if Sasha can't go, that's one way they can kind of like you said, the very good word, pivot. I like that. If Sasha can't go, I think that's one good idea they could do. I think we're both in agreement that having Becky Lynch show up as a very random, not random, but very sudden substitution like that, I don't know if that's necessarily the most realistic. Although I was going to wait to talk about it, but that does lead the way to a natural question. But we talked about a little last weekend, but now we've arrived. CM Punk is in AEW, and of course now in the WWE lens, the question becomes, what can WWE do?
Nothing.
Okay, okay. Let me. They can't do anything to match it. Obviously, we know that, right? There's nothing they can do to even just even take anything away from that buzz. I'm more asking, what can they do? Just to answer, not to match it, but to answer. I knew what
you were asking, and my answer remains nothing. WWE right now can't match it because they're just oh, well, we're WWE. When WWE is going to want to match it? If that number for Rampage comes in higher than SmackDown, or if the number from Dynamite, now that people know he's there, comes in higher than Raw or SmackDown, then WWE is going to go, all right, strip everything. What do we need to do? Let's get down to business. That's when they're going to match it. Until then, they're just going to go, oh, well, glad he found a place where he's happy. Like Roman did the whole, I think Dean's happy where he's at over in AEW. But let's be real, if he could have been the man here, he would have been the man here. It's like, man, if they beat you, like if they take it from you, then it's gonna be an issue. And then it's like, what happens? What happens when you have Dynamite suddenly it's performing better than Raw, or Rampage is already outdoing SmackDown and it's on at 10 p.m. I don't know, man. The CM Punk moment felt magical. Would Becky help? Yes. But now it's a systemic, it's a WWE systemic issue. So I think to me, it's more than just throw Becky out there. Because now the thing is, Becky was hot. Let's be real. Becky was hot in a time where, and I know it's just a couple of years ago, but AEW wasn't running yet, were they?
Right.
You got to really think about that. You got to really think about the last year without Becky and how, AEW ramped up their stuff. Maybe Brock. I see somebody saying Brock. I'd call in Brock personally. I'd call in whoever I had to call in. I'd say, John, can you do a year? John, can you do a year and maybe turn heel? Can we maybe can you do a year, maybe turn heel, maybe tell everybody to kiss your ass, whatever. That's the kind of drastic stuff I think you would need to do, because there's nothing right now. There is nothing right now that you can do, because you've got Adam Cole, maybe, but you don't have the Undisputed Era where you can do Undisputed Era invasion of Raw or SmackDown and they just take over, and then at least you're like, all right, cool, that's a fun angle. Right now, you got nothing. CM Punk delivered a genuine moment where, knowing he was there, I got emotional. I'm sure you got emotional.
Oh, I did, man.
We didn't talk. Grown men are in the audience shedding tears as though they are watching the birth of their first child. And I mean, that moment was everything wrestling is. It doesn't matter if you know. It doesn't. And same thing with John. I'll give John this. It doesn't matter if you know. If the moment is good, the moment is good. The problem with WWE is the moments are good too far in between to actually matter. CM Punk mattered because the moment was good and it was real and it's everything that you need. By the way, if I'm Adam Cole and I haven't signed yet, I just watched Rampage and I said, well, boys, it's been fun. I'm going to go have some fun with my friends. They're doing this cool thing over there. I'll see you later. I'll catch you down the road. That's what I would do. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. There's nothing they can do, as I said, to match CM Punk coming in, but even to answer it. I don't know. Like you said, there's just nothing they can really do. You talk about Brock maybe coming back. That's probably the biggest thing they could do. We know Becky will be coming back at some point. It's just kind of ironic, I guess, the way the timing fell about, where maybe in a perfectly ideal world, they could quote unquote answer Punk coming in by bringing Cena back, but just the way the time, the way the current chronological order here, Cena came back like that. That was the way it went. They wanted Cena for SummerSlam, and that's how it unfolded. But that something like that feels like the only fitting response, right? If they could have kind of played it like that with Punk coming back, okay, we're gonna bring Cena back. Otherwise, there's nothing. There's nothing they can do to match that magical moment. And like you said, for me, we're talking about WWE here. Cena coming back was a wonderful moment as well when he got that response from live fans. That was wonderful. But now that, like, is what we were talking about, they've messed up that build to his match with Roman.
Messed it up.
And even in a world where he does, let's say in a world that they do get him to stick around, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. I don't know, because like again, to circle back to it, if Cena wins, he even said he's going to take the title and quote unquote leave, pull a CM Punk in Money in the Bank 2011. Does that? I still don't think they would turn him heel. Although I like that they need to do something kind of drastic like that if they can.
It's this time last year they were desperate. Nothing was hitting. They tried Retribution. It worked for like 5 seconds, and they just didn't follow through. They tried Raw Underground, same deal, worked. I liked Raw Underground, and then they didn't follow through. The only thing they did follow through with was Roman Reigns. Last year at SummerSlam, two guys called Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. They had a match for like the main event for the world title, and this guy called Roman Reigns came out, beat him up, and that was when the last like, okay, this is cool. Let's see where they go.
Yeah,
and that was it.
Yeah, and now here we are 1 year later, and kind of in a very similar situation where, like, yeah, Roman's still doing great things. Cena's back. People are liking that, other than the questionable booking here. Edge and Rollins have been good. They've got RK-Bro over on Raw. Lashley Goldberg hasn't been great, but at least you got that the nostalgia pop. But they're very much in a situation where they need to do something kind of akin to Roman Reigns coming back, kick-starting that kind of run that he's been on. And I'm looking. You look at the lay of the land here, and I don't see something like that. Like, it feels like they're just kind of, I hate to say stuck, but I don't know.
I don't think that they think they're stuck. I think it's we're WWE. We're on another playing field, and they genuinely believe that. And in some ways, they're right to do so. But from a wrestling show perspective, it's not hitting. I mean, Rampage was an hour, and it felt like 10 minutes. SmackDown was 2 hours, and it felt like 3.
Yeah,
that's the difference between good shows. What can you say? The only thing that AEW could do left, and we talked about this in our little group chat, if they signed Brock Lesnar, can you imagine just like it's pantsing? They're pantsing WWE if they sign Brock Lesnar. It's like that's the only thing that they could possibly do left. But Punk was a huge hit. It was a huge, huge hit. And it's proof the guy wants to be involved in wrestling. There's your answer.
What you mentioned that CM Punk said last night, he left wrestling, professional wrestling, when he left Ring of Honor.
That was a good line.
And he only came back to professional wrestling on August 20th, 2021. Very much saying WWE is not professional wrestling. Strong statement there. Plenty of people would probably agree with that. I like this coming from Nanda. We're talking about some of the things kind of holding WWE back, some of the ways that things aren't going their way here. He's saying what's insane is that WWE has the deepest women's division in wrestling, but they've been halting its growth. Now it's regressing, and AEW has at least 2 crossover stars with Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. Kind of a tale of 2 very different paths there. WWE, the women's evolution, women main eventing WrestleMania, making history, doing great things. Now as he says, regressing. And on the flip side, AEW at first very much criticized for its women's division, not presenting it right, not doing right by it. And over the past couple of months, especially, Britt Baker has become this major star. They're building up other women very successfully as well. And you look kind of beyond CM Punk, beyond some of these big things, and just something like that. Definitely yet again another example of maybe one thing that just trending in different directions, because we've been seeing I'll see at least before Sasha Banks came back, SmackDown Women's Division wasn't looking great. Raw has been a mixed bag, let's say. The balance of power is shifting, right? And now as we sit here on WWE show trying to think, okay, what can they do about it? Robert, you said a minute ago, like the problem is if the company isn't even going to, from what we're seeing on the outside, if they're not going to treat it like this is a real thing, then it's hard to like really hope for too much change or any meaningful move like that. I don't know, but SummerSlam, I think it'll be a fun show, right? I think
let's run down that card. It's a good one.
So we're a SmackDown show, but we'll just run it through here. We talked about Reigns and Cena. That'll be a great match. The build hasn't been very good. It hasn't been nearly what it could be. But two very top stars, they're going to be in the main event. It's going to be a good match. I feel like WWE choreographed the result, but at the same time, there's always a chance for an upset here. Nesh Kurse again just agreeing that it could be Cena's 17th world title win. People have to, I think the odds are in Reigns' favor, but WWE could go for a kind of a swerve, as you said earlier, Robert. And on the flip side, over on Raw, I think a match that definitely has less uncertainty around it. Goldberg, Bobby Lashley. For me, the build hasn't been great, but kind of in a very different way here. Maybe two top stars. Lashley's been on this dominant run. Goldberg comes back. A lot of people like Goldberg. Very casual fans really get behind Goldberg. So you've got that nostalgia there. I think that has its own appeal. Goldberg has called it a clash between, I think he said, King Kong and a geriatric Godzilla, or the other way around. I'm not sure which, but there's some metaphor in that sense. That'll be a sight to see at least. That'll be something. We talked about the SmackDown Women's Title match. If it does go down, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair will be fun. A good match, good WrestleMania rematch there. Again, as we were saying, not quite sure what to expect with that. We know that the Mysterios will face the Usos for the tag titles. And I guess at this point, that's going to be a great match. We saw that in Money in the Bank. That was a very good match there. So I expect that they're very same here. And I'm curious what you think about this. Over on Raw, you've got RK Bro versus AJ Styles and Omos. You've got to think this is going to be RK Bro's moment right in front of the live crowd.
I've said this on like a couple podcasts now. It's very simple. The power of friendship allows RK Bro to RKO Omos, and then Randy Orton. I assume this is after AJ Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm off the shoulders of Omos and gets caught in RKO himself. AJ's taking the pin because you can't pin the big man, but this should be a fun night. And I'll say this about Usos Mysterios. I think the bloom's off the rose for Dominic. I think people are like, I don't know, man. Go back to get some training, because I think that's how people are feeling. Obviously, Usos are winning. I don't see any doubt in that.
Yeah, to all of you bring up Dominic. Last night, he pretty much cost Ray a match. He tried to help Ray cheat to win, as they do. The referee had it scouted, kicked Dominic out. The distraction helped Jey Uso beat Rey Mysterio. So maybe some tension between father and son there in the Mysterio family. And, I think it'll be a very good match. But yeah, I think there's a fair case to be made that maybe, Dominic could use some seasoning, some time in NXT, because he hasn't had that yet. Some time away, so it seems people are kind of souring on him. Yeah, and people have seemingly forgotten about the baby champ line, but even now, definitely some lessening excitement about him, I guess. So I think there's something to be said for that. And maybe they run it back at some point. Maybe next year they could do Dominic turning on Ray, having a father and son match. I think that there's definitely a story to be had there. But we're not there yet. I think Dominic definitely still needs some time to really grow and to get more season there. I think NXT would be a great way to do that. But he will be on the SummerSlam card second year in a row, so that's a big accomplishment for him. Meanwhile, over on Raw, we're going to have a weird triple threat match for the Raw Women's title. It's going to be Nikki Ash versus Charlotte Flair versus Ray Ripley. John and I have been talking about it every week, but I'm curious to hear what you think, Robert. I mean, I think that this is very pretty. This is not going to be Nikki Ash's night.
Okay, I wish sometimes I was on the Raw show with you, just so we could talk about like the ridiculousness of Monday Night Raw. Yeah, Nikki's not winning. I had just Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is winning. Charlotte Flair is the best in the world in terms of women's wrestling. I genuinely believe that she is the total package. She's what you should want. And I think Sean Ross Sapp said it to me the best. It doesn't matter if Becky Lynch shows up in Lucha Underground. She's going to wrestle Charlotte Flair first. So Becky's coming back. I think that's how you set that up.
Yeah, and that's been kind of, or at least even from a fan's perspective, that feels like something they could do in the fall. Maybe build up to that for Survivor Series or something. I mean, that's definitely a marquee match, and that very well could start with the Charlotte winning the title tonight at SummerSlam. Definitely some other noteworthy matches over on the Raw side. We're going to have Alexa Bliss face Eva Marie. Definitely an odd clash of personalities there.
Okay, let's talk about this. It's Eva Marie's first singles match on pay-per-view ever, and she was with the company before Bliss was even on the main roster. Like, what is that? What is that? You know, I think on the one hand, I feel like Bliss has to win, and on the other hand, I'm like, Eva can't lose, right? Eva shouldn't lose unless it's a giant Lily shows up and it's actually Dewdrop in a Lily outfit. I don't know, but like
that'd be hysterical.
Eva can't lose, so I'm gonna go Eva Marie.
There was at least one report that this match was likely going to be even shorter than Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg. So I'm expecting a lot of shenanigans of some sort here. I love the idea of a life-size Dewdrop, or not a life-size Lily, maybe a Dewdrop playing her. Neshker is saying that Lashley might win with Lily's help, whether it's Lily or Dewdrop in disguise. For me, maybe I'm biased. I've been saying for months on the roster that Alexa Bliss needs to be back in the title picture, and I feel like that could start here, but it would be kind of crushing if Marie lost.
I thought Bliss needed to be in the title picture when she was working with the Fiend, because that would have been a great way to do it. This version of her, that's kind of like babyface, because I'm gonna do a really, really bootleg Harley Quinn shtick. Look, I don't even like babyface Harley Quinn. I'll say that out right now. I don't like that we turned Harley Quinn full babyface.
Agreed.
And now you're gonna do that with Alexa Bliss. I just don't know if I like it.
No, Bliss is much better as a heel, whether it's in this Bray Wyatt-esque character or otherwise. You know, it's just. Yeah, I like that comparison a lot, and at the same, I don't know. At the same time, there are possibilities here. If Bliss wins, if she does re-enter the title scene as I want her to, you've got a potential match with Nikki Ash. You know, a kind of a Batman Joker-esque clash there of a superhero and a villain.
But in order to do that, she's got to be a heel.
Yes,
and I don't see her being a heel.
And I think that's unfortunate. I think that she's a great villain, and that story would write itself. You know, if they did Bliss versus Nikki Ash there. But at the same time, I guess let's play devil's advocate. If they keep Bliss as a face, I think there'd be something kind of interesting about that character facing the heel Charlotte Flair. I think there's something said for that. You know, I think that's one at least option on the table. I don't know. It feels maybe in this case more like she's been less actual babyface, but it's kind of like when they turned Sasha Banks' face. But when Bayley attacked her, she was the lesser of the two heels. By putting Bliss with Eva Marie, she's only the lesser of the two heels there. So I think they kind of easily pivot it back to, hey, this is still Alexa Bliss with Lily. Like, she's evil and she's crazy. So let's, whatever happens after SummerSlam, they could kind of go back in that direction.
I suppose you're right. I mean, nothing is stopping that. If you want to use the Harley Quinn comparison, Harley Quinn is, in fact, a heel. So when she needs to, she can just beat up Batman, even though she's a sympathetic character. But to me, that has years and years and years of anticipation behind it. This is just, okay, we'll do this because we couldn't do the thing that we actually set out to do.
Pretty much. And that feels like kind of the case in a lot of ways where, like, granted, I don't know, not to criticize it too much. I feel like Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg they're doing what they could. They want to do something, they couldn't do that, so they did this instead. I feel like for a while, myself included, most fans thought that they were going to do Lashley versus Lesnar. When that wasn't on the table anymore, they're like, all right, guess we're going to do Goldberg. and that has felt like a kind of a drop off in that sense.
So I will say this. I don't hate the idea inherently of Lashley versus Goldberg. Goldberg, I think, is great. I think that's a great opponent to put up against Lashley. The problem is Goldberg's 55 or 54 or whatever. And not that in itself is inherently a problem. I think Flair was 54 when he had the great match with Shawn at Mania. Goldberg was never a match guy anyway.
No.
And I think the wheels fell off after that Undertaker match. I think once that went down, a lot of people soured on Goldberg.
Big time.
I am looking forward to seeing what they do. I do think Bill can win. I do think it can happen. There is a Saudi Arabia show coming up, and I do think this is on the table. However, there's a Super SmackDown coming up in the Garden. Bill can lose it in the Garden. Has Bill wrestled in the Garden? I don't even know. That's an option. However, I think Lashley beats him. Spear 1, 2, 3.
I mean, yeah, there's always like that chance for an upset, right? I think
who's here.
We got a run-in from. I have a run-in from Bossman Bill. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, I think there's always a chance of Goldberg. That's been the kind of the theme of the night here. Sorry for some title difficulties there, but I mean, with Goldberg, yeah, we've seen it before. He beat the Fiend. He's won the title before, even in a situation where it feels like there's not a chance that he'll win. But yeah, I think the odds are in Lashley's favor here, and unlike Cena versus Reigns, like this does feel a good amount more settled. Where if they want to do something kind of quote unquote crazy, Cena winning feels possible. But Goldberg, it's worth pointing out, he has a 2-match per year contract, and this is the second match of 2021. So him winning would be very surprising because, like I'm not saying somehow I guess they could. I think that'd be surprising to have him do 3-4 matches this year.
I think here's what I'll say. Even though my official predictions will be Lashley and Reigns, my genuine feeling is that one of those two is losing their belt. I don't know which one, but I do think either Goldberg or John, because they need, let's be honest, if it's just everybody retained, okay, one of them has to lose so that there's at least a talking point coming out of the show. Unless somehow Reigns and Cena have a 5-star match, or Reigns Brock Lesnar's him and bloodies him up or something, there has to be a talking point coming out of SummerSlam.
It definitely does feel like they're going to want to do something like that, right? That's something to get people talking again, not as an answer to CM Punk, but as a hey, let's redirect some of the conversation back toward us. Let's get people talking about us this weekend, so that some of the focus is off of CM Punk, off of AEW. And so one way to do that, definitely a world title change, but in general, just maybe some just general title changes here, whether it's RK Bro winning the tag titles. I think it's fair to at least think that one of Lashley and Reigns will lose the title. I think, they might do something crazy like that. And granted, the way that's gone down, it would be pretty crazy to see Goldberg or Cena winning, but I think they're going to want to have a kind of a major move like that. Neshker saying Cena winning or RK Bro winning definitely going to be the pops of the night. If Cena wins, I think the place will go crazy.
Like if RK Bro wins, that's pop, but it's not
a moment.
It's not a talking point coming out of the show. And as we've talked about, WWE likes their moments. If we look at it now, Royal Rumble was Edge goes coast to coast. WrestleMania, Sasha and Bianca are the first 2 black women to ever headline WrestleMania. Money in the Bank, it was look at John Cena, look at the pop, look at the magic in the moment. They like their moments. Right now, I'm not seeing a moment, and I don't think the face-off of Reigns and Cena combined with maybe Cena just loses is the moment that they need. I think Cena gets, if I had gun to my head, I think it's more likely Cena gets to 17 than it is Goldberg wins the title. Either way, one of those two will become the first to hold the WWE the World Championship and the Universal Championship. I've harped on this because not a lot of people are talking about it, and I think that that's an amazing fact that like all of the iterations of a World Championship could go to one of these two men.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say as a Cena fan, I think Cena deserves that that I guess honor or that history. Maybe more than, I won't say more than Goldberg, but as a WWE guy through and through, the face of the company, the guy that's been there, I would think that Cena deserves that. I like this kind of off the wall idea from Nando, though, saying he'd love to see a Lesnar run in to Costco with title, and that's setting up maybe the perfect match for a Saudi Arabia show: Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg, and that would probably be in October. That's something that'd be a moment, right?
Yeah, you never know. I don't think they do Goldberg. Hold on. I do think they do Goldberg and Lesnar in Saudi. I don't know if they'd screw everything for just Goldberg and Lesnar in Saudi.
Yeah, no, I agree. That like for me, we've seen them try and like frame the Saudi Arabia shows as these like weird, in some senses, like the one-offs and like dream money matches or whatever, with some exceptions. And I think if they really want to, that's something they could use that Saudi Arabia payday to pay for that. But for SummerSlam, yeah, I think the better play, even if they want a moment, right? I think Cena winning at least could be a moment, and something for the short term, whatever that might look like. So if we're going for a big moment like that, something kind of, again, I don't want to say crazy, but something to drive the conversation, I think Cena winning would be the better option, the option that I like to see more, the option that would make more sense to me. So I don't know. I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see how WWE handle SummerSlam, what they choose to do in terms of likely they're going to want some moments, and I think, yeah, as we said, RK Bro winning might be a pop, Cena winning would be a moment. So I don't know. I think that there's definitely some room for some very special moments tonight, and we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. Of course, when the show it does happen, we'll have full coverage here at WrestleZone. And if you're not on SummerSlam where you can watch both at the same time, the Dynamite Dudes with Rampage will be here tonight to talk all things AW and CM Punk.
I wouldn't do that. The Dominic and Marcus can do whatever they want. I wouldn't do that going up against SummerSlam. I'd do it maybe a little bit before, because Ring of Honor is going up against SummerSlam. I don't even think that that's smart. Ring of Honor tonight, what do they have? They got a cage match between Vincent and Matt Taven. That's the only match that I know of and that I really want to stick around and check out. But they had Glory by Honor Night 1 last night. That's exciting. You covered all that good stuff.
I'll be covering tonight as well. Play-by-play coverage for Ring of Honor Night 2.
Impact Emergence happened last night. Sleeper show, but nice little main event between Christian Cage and Brian Myers. The money, though, CM Punk is back in wrestling. SummerSlam is tonight. Samoa Joe is in a ring tomorrow. Adam Cole's potentially last match in NXT. All these things and more are the important things to follow this weekend. And, it's all about just enjoying wrestling, and I know that's what we do. I did kind of crush Colin's dreams with the ROH disparagement. I do apologize. Nobody covers Ring of Honor like Colin. Colin is the best in the world at that. But I will say SummerSlam will be a great time. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the wackiness of it all. And let's see what we get.
Absolutely. So whether you're waving the AEW flag, or if you're a loyal WWE fan through and through, if you like Ring of Honor like myself, whatever company you like, whatever company you really prefer, it's like this weekend especially, it's made it easy to do the one thing we do above all others here at WrestleZone. And Robert, can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, you just gotta sit down, take a deep breath, and enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.